Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Tara Magalski. Together with my guest experts, I cover topics ranging from cutting-edge healing modalities to hormonal harmony, to nutrition and plant medicine, to mindfulness and spirituality. My goal is to educate and inspire so you can create your own divine lifestyle. It's time to dive inward, rewire your brain, and heal from the inside out. Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Tara Magalski, and today I am joined by a long-term dear friend that I used to work with in New York City, the beautiful Diana Min. Diana is an empowerment coach, spiritual guide, and intuitive business mentor. She supports people in overcoming their shadows so they can confidently step into their light and create a life beyond their wildest dreams. As an NYC native, Diana suffered unimaginable trauma in her youth. The pain of her experiences eventually led to alcoholism, drug use, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and borderline personality disorder. After suffering for many years alone, Diana sought out spiritual support and dove headfirst into the world of holistic healing. Sacred plant medicine, meditation, yoga, and many different forms of energy work and shamanic healing allowed her to break free from all of her addictions and enabled her to heal herself and her mental ailments without any medications. Super excited to hear more about that as well. And since then, Diana has built a multi-six-figure business helping people transform their pain into power by providing them with tools and wisdom to create true happiness, abundance, and inner peace. Yes, girl, yes.
I love the way
Thank
you
you.
read that. Like your voice is so soothing. I was like, oh, that sounds wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for just taking the time. You know, you and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't even know, maybe even like 12 years-ish.
Yeah, quite a
When we
while.
were running the streets of New York together.
Hustling. We're out there hustling.
Yes, yes. And we like hung around the same area. Did you grow up in where I grew up or?
No. I grew up originally born in Queens and then raised in Long Island, but I went upstate Hudson Valley for school. And so
Yeah.
that's how I kind of knew some of the people that you knew. From where you grew up. But yeah, New York, although it is, its own universe, it is quite small once you start to really run around there your whole life and keep just seeing the interconnectedness of all of us there together.
It's funny, New York is small and New York City was even smaller, right? When we were working there,
Yeah.
it was a small, tight crowd. So let's just dive into that. So Diana and I have known each other, like I said, for many years, and we
Yeah.
were working together, hustling in the nightlife, bottle service, hosting. I mean, that's what you do in New York when you're young and, you got to save some money. That's expensive.
Yeah, it was.
And and so we really met at very different times in both of our lives. And what's really beautiful now is I'm so happy that we've reconnected all these years later when we're both on our healing journeys and paths. So I
Yeah.
just want to give us a little shout out for that because this work is it's a process, right? So
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about, your story, how you got into the work that you're doing now.
Mhm.
Who were you before you were this amazing entrepreneur?
Yeah. Before I was a very just contracted version of myself, right? I had suffered, you know, uh, a significant amount of abuse in my childhood because my mother was bipolar and um, a narcissist and just, my parents, both being immigrants from Thailand, had experienced their own of trauma and physical abuse. And so that just gets passed down, the bloodline. And, obviously I don't hold anything against my parents. They did their best. They were dealing with, what they had to deal with the best they could. But unfortunately, we received a lot of that trauma, a lot of that physical abuse, emotional, psychological abuse. And so when I came out of living at my parents' house and a lot of the violence that I saw there, I was very much conditioned to being an angry, violent person, right? And I had all this pain that I was carrying around with that I had no idea was even like affecting me so deeply, because you become very desensitized to what you've experienced your entire life, right? This is normal for people to, be violent and talk to each other in this, harmful and disrespectful way. And so very abusive. And so I became an alcoholic and a drug addict pretty early on in my life, probably around like, I would say like high school, being an alcoholic, and then obviously being a drug addict more later in my life. But what I was really doing was just trying to numb all of the pain that I was experiencing and carrying, not only from my parents, but, even their parents before their parents, right? Like we're carrying all of this energy from our ancestors. And when we don't have the tools and we don't really know, what to do with it, we're doing our best to just survive. And so I was very much living in a constant survival mode. And that's kind of where we met in New York City, hustling, working in nightlife, just trying to make money and get by. And just really numbing out and just like, which is very normal for a New York City nightlife culture as well. Just drink, just do some drugs, like you'll be fine. But what we're
Yeah.
doing there is just continuing to suppress the pain and just avoiding, right, anything that we're feeling, and avoiding healing, really facing ourselves. And so I think I got to a point around when I was 26 where that just wasn't working out for me anymore, right? Like I had, a really successful career as an event coordinator. I was doing events all over the city. Was meeting all the people I'd ever wanted to meet, being at the, at the red carpets, succeeding externally, had a great relationship and traveling all the time and buying all the shoes and the bags. But like internally, I felt like I was dying. I was so miserable. I was so unsatisfied. Nothing was enough. Every time I reached a new level of success or financial success, I was just like, it was empty. Everything was empty. And
Hmm.
when we lack purpose in our lives and we lack meaning in what we do, there's no amount of external achievement that's going to fill that inner void. And so I got to that point where I had, what we call in the spiritual world the dark night of the soul, but really a mental breakdown where I basically had a moment where it's like, I'm either going to die or I'm going to kill myself because I'm so miserable and I don't want to be here anymore. And so I had, by divine alignment, a number for a woman who was a healer, literally in my phone, healer, no name, nothing. It was given to me by one of my other girls in nightlife that I worked at One Oak. Shout out to her. And I just called this woman in the middle of a mental breakdown, like hysterically crying. And she picks up, which she never usually does. And I have a like hour-long conversation, like bawling to this stranger on the phone. She was a shamanic healer based out of Brooklyn. And she was like, listen, when you're ready to come see me, I am in Williamsburg. And so about a month later, I went to go see her, and she said, you are not an angry person. You are not a violent person. You have so much pain and I need to help you. And I couldn't really even afford her because she was kind of like famous, but she was like, she made it work for me. And I worked with her for about 6 months just doing like deep energy work. And at this point, like I have zero like information on what is going on, right? I'm like, I'm here, whatever you want to do, just do it. I'm laying in her living room, crystals in my hand, like eye mask on. There's like drumming, there's like rattling going on. I'm just like, I take like a 2 hour nap. I wake up, I'm like, I feel exhausted. I'm like, what's going on? Um, but over the course of that 6 months, I really started to see feel a shift within myself. And one of the biggest shifts that I felt was there was like not realizing, obviously, that there was like this veil over my perception where everything was gray and everything was dangerous and the world was dark and I had to be on guard and I had to protect myself and I was never safe. And all of a sudden one day this veil just dropped and it was almost like I could see in color for the first time. And I could feel like fear, like this existential fear really start to dissolve out of literally my mouth. I was like feeling it coming like this dark cloud, like purging from my mouth. And I started to look around and be like, okay, things are starting to look really different. And so from there, I would go into my first ayahuasca ceremony, which dramatically like changed my life. I became sober from being like a raging alcoholic and a drug addict to literally within one ayahuasca ceremony being completely sober. And I mean, not that I didn't try to drink and do drugs, I did. And then I would just like projectile vomit everywhere. And so it just was like this weird thing where I was like, what's going on? Like I can't drink anymore. I can't do drugs anymore. But it was just like the path, right? Within my first ayahuasca ceremony, what was so profound for me was really understanding that, it was me and God, right? Me and source, seeing
Mm-hmm.
my life from an aerial view and almost seeing myself like a little lab rat in a little maze and seeing
Mm-hmm.
that everything that I had been experienced as far as tragedy, trauma, suffering, pain, had all been given to me intentionally so that I could overcome it, transcend it, become stronger. And for whatever purpose, right? Obviously, we know now, but at the time had no clue why. But I understood and I accepted it. And then I had a deep gratitude for my life. Whereas before, I was treating my life as if it was disposable. Within a month, I would then serendipitously find myself in a second ayahuasca ceremony as some random person was like, inviting me to, right? Some random person I met in a random place one time asked me if I wanted
So
a
this
drink.
was very quick. So this
Very
was very
quick.
quick. So from you
Yeah,
meeting the healer in Brooklyn to doing your first Aya ceremony, how fast
6
was
months.
that?
6 months.
6 months. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you jumped right in.
Right. And the second ayahuasca ceremony was a month after my first, completely different group, completely different people. I was at a nightclub. A bartender asked me, "Would you like a drink?" I said, "Oh, I can't drink anymore." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Ever since I did this thing called ayahuasca, like I just can't drink anymore." And she looked at me like I had three heads because she was organizing ayahuasca ceremonies in New York City.
The chills.
Crazy. So then a month later, didn't even have my number. She had to like ask another girl for it. And I got invited to a second ayahuasca ceremony. I remember, and this is how I know when something is for you, like even if it's under a mountain, it will find you. It is meant for you. And I remember I was stuck in New York City traffic trying to get to this ayahuasca ceremony on 36th Street in Midtown. Um, and I literally jumped out of I was getting the text from the girl. She goes, "We're waiting for you. Like, where are you?" I was in the car with my ex. I looked at him. I said, "I gotta go." I had a pillow in my hand, jumped out of the car and ran like 3 avenues to get to this ayahuasca ceremony. I literally got there. Everybody's sitting there literally waiting for me. And I'm like, "Hi, I'm here
You're like, I'm ready.
I'm ready now." Yeah. That ceremony, I was told that I would move to California and my relationship would end. And it was really hard for me because we were living together. We thought we were going to be together, and go the distance. But I got this message. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what messages were at the time. I was like, that's a fun thought. Moving to
Yeah.
California, that's a fun thought.
Yeah.
A week after that, I got fired from my job. A week after that, me and my ex get into the biggest physical fight that ended us. Obviously, we were both physically abusive towards each other because that was the pattern. And I had to move out. So now I'm jobless. I'm about to be homeless. I have no money. I'm like, what do I do? I try look for a job, dead end. Try to get an apartment, dead end. And I remember I was in my office in our house at the time in New Rochelle. And I was like crying in fetal position, just like feeling so stuck. And a voice came to me and my
Mhm.
hand like kind of like was like caressing me, like as if something took over my hands, like caressing my head. And the voice said, "I love you and I will never leave you and you're going to be okay."
Love that.
And In that moment, I got this direction, a divine intuition. Remember you
Divine
went to visit
download.
right. Remember you went to visit San Diego 2 years ago? You stayed with a girl at an Airbnb. She was really nice. You should text her. So this girl who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, met one time when I stayed at her Airbnb in San Diego, texted her, I'm like, "Hey girl, let me know if you know anybody looking for a roommate. I'm looking to move." She said, "I'm looking for a roommate." And she had some emergency construction happen at her place. She needed to move ASAP. Within 3 weeks of that conversation, she found us an apartment. Within 2 weeks of that, I had sent my car. Like, it was the easiest, most seamless move of my life. I didn't have a lot of money, but I had taken out a credit card from my ex's furniture, so he paid me out cash on it. It was like 35. It cost me, no lie, Tara, exactly $3,500 to the T to move across the country. I got there. She did Airbnb, B&B, had furniture for me. I sat there with it and I just looked out the window and I was just like, what just happened to me?
You were like, thank
It,
you, thank you, thank you.
I floated out of there and I got here in San
Like,
Diego
I'm
where I still live
crying.
today.
Mhm.
I know when God comes into to really to carry you, it is really it's beautiful, you know.
I
Um,
always say this, when the work that you're here to do in the world is bigger than yourself, spirit will never let you stray. And no matter what happens, just like you said, it will just pull you back in. If that is
yeah,
your divine appointment and your soul's blueprint, you are here to do
y-
this work, there's
yeah,
no way that it's not going to happen.
yeah. It's like it's just it'll clear the path for you, you know,
Yeah.
and all the obstacles that you think are going to be there are just they dissolve. And I got to San Diego and I was like, what do I do? I'm sober. I don't know who I am right now.
Yeah. You probably didn't
Right?
know yourself sober, right?
No idea who I am. Don't know what to do. I was like, just have to keep following the medicine. And so,
Yeah.
I got a job, just waitressing here just to pay bills, but I continued to follow the medicine. I found a ceremony here. I went to Peru. Did work with shamans in the Sacred Valley. I then would go back to Peru and do work with shamans in the jungle. I continued to do the work. And I just knew once I had freed myself of my own prison of pain, I was like,
Yeah.
I need to give this to other people.
Yes.
I need to create access to this medicine. Like I need to. It was like my divine duty. Like I had to. And I have been working with that level of passion and commitment and devotion to this since then. I've been organizing ayahuasca ceremonies and retreats for the past 7 years. I'm organizing my first international one in June. The way that people find me, like for the medicine or not for the medicine, right? I get coaching clients that sign up with me as a coach, as their spiritual coach, and then like 2 weeks working in with me, they're like, "Have you ever heard of ayahuasca? I've been really wanting to do that." And I'm like, you have no idea who you just hired. I, because I don't obviously advertise it mostly online. I very much keep it like, word of mouth and
Yeah.
sharing it with my intimate clients that I already know have been working with me for a little while and I feel like they're ready for it. So the way that the medicine, she continues to just channel people into my world to bring them to the medicine, to give them access to this healing. And then even some people that find me looking for the medicine may not ever get to sit in an ayahuasca ceremony, whether it's because they live far or they have kids, they can't get away for that long. But just coaching with me, I become a conduit for the medicine, right? All the work, I mean, I've sat in 200 ceremonies to this date. So all of the wisdom, all the work that I've done just with the medicine gets to just get channeled through me to them. And that becomes their form of medicine that they receive from me. And so,
Yes. I love that. And I
um,
love that it's like we are all the medicine, right?
yes.
And all of our traumas are our teachers. And, it's such a beautiful thing. I'm getting to that within my work right now. And I've been just so happy to see you blossom and see all the
Thank
amazing
you.
things going on in your world. And on that note, let's just tell everyone listening a little bit about your retreat that's coming up.
Yeah. So I have an ayahuasca retreat. It's 8 days in the Sacred Valley of Peru, which is a hop and a skip away from Machu Picchu. So it's in the mountains, right? So a lot of people, they want to go to the jungle, and the jungle is intense, right? So I would say,
Yeah.
advanced participants for the jungle. This is definitely for people that it's their first time. Maybe they've never worked with sacred plant medicine before, because the Sacred Valley in Peru is so beautiful. It's so serene. It's so peaceful. You're not dealing with too many elements as far as animals and bugs and fire ants and and heat and stuff like that, because the weather is so beautiful there. And yeah, I've worked with the Sacred Valley tribe for many years in the past, and so it's just really exciting to share that region with people, my tribe. And now we're gonna also go to Machu Picchu, so it's gonna be really beautiful. So that's happening in
Yeah.
June. The dates are June 17th to the 25th.
Yes, and you know that I hope I'm going to be there. I am just waiting on I actually have my appointment on the 20th, so I'll keep you posted
Yeah,
because
would love to have you, queen.
I have never done ayahuasca, but I've done
Mm,
some other plant. I've done other ceremonies, DMT and psilocybin, and I'm actually
beautiful.
facilitating some psilocybin now as well, and some bufo. But
Lovely.
I have been called to Mother Ayahuasca, but I was just in Mexico and it didn't align. And you with this medicine, you cannot push it.
Yeah.
And the more time that I spent like hanging with the elders there, they all had
Mhm.
recommended that I really go to the land rather than doing it in the land in Tulum. So I think that's
Mm,
why it didn't work out.
wow.
You always have to just trust because it was not
Yeah.
until I was there 2 months, not until the last couple of weeks of my trip did I actually finally get that feedback that, you know what, I think it's best if you go to the
Mm,
land where the real guardians are sitting on the land, the guardians of the medicine,
mm.
not just like someone coming into town doing it. You have to go. It's like, okay, duly noted. I have
Oh,
a friend who's planning a retreat.
I love that. Yes,
Yeah.
I think definitely my most potent and powerful ceremonies are when I'm in the land, when I'm in Peru, whether that's the Sacred Valley or the jungle. And, it's just, you can feel the higher frequency of that space because of the guardians, like you said, whether the mountains and all the plants that live there.
I've got an exciting offer for all of my listeners. The free Divine Daily Practices video series. Get simple practices to release anxious thoughts, sharpen your intuition, and rewire your nervous system in less than 10 minutes a day. Come on over to my website at divinelifestyles.com/divine daily practices. And over the next week, you'll receive a complimentary self-care system to drop into your authentic self and activate your divine intuitive wisdom. I hope you enjoy. So tell me a little bit about maybe some of the struggles that you have come across as being an entrepreneur, because it all sounds amazing, right? And we're like, oh, we're
Yeah.
healing. Healing is a process and it ebbs and flows, right? So just tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about, especially your work, some of the challenges that you faced.
Um, I think the biggest challenges being an abused child is just really believing that what you have to say matters. I think
Mm,
that was one of my biggest challenges when I first started getting into this work. I'm like, who's going to care about my story? Who's going to
mm,
care about what I've been through? It doesn't matter. I don't matter, right? What I
yeah.
do is, I think that's one of the biggest lies that we're told, is that what we have to share and our experiences don't matter to the collective, when they 100% absolutely do. And not only do they matter, but they're important and they need to be shared in
Ugh,
order to,
absolutely.
you don't know the amount of the ripple effect that you have when you speak your
Yeah.
truth and share your voice or share your light in the world. You
Mhm.
know, something that we're going to talk about on this podcast with your audience. it's going to create a spark inspiration for someone to take action in their lives, or it's going to give someone the epiphany or breakthrough that they've been needing. With your work, with my work, we don't know. And so part of that is really coming into just a devotion to expressing no matter what, right? Because so much of the work sometimes gets caught up in algorithms, social media, likes, followers,
Mhm.
all that. Um, and that doesn't matter. None of that matters. And I think when we come into this work, sometimes we do have to do a lot of work around our ego that needs that validation of being seen, acknowledged, or recognized. When in reality, I have to always come back to when I first started. I had a small audience, and I said, if my story can affect one person in my lifetime, I will die happy.
Yeah.
And at this point, I've, impacted hundreds and then thousands through the ripple effect of who they've impacted and they've impacted and they've impacted. And it's like, had I stayed small and had I convinced myself that my story doesn't matter and my voice doesn't matter, I look at the hundreds of people that would have missed out on the breakthroughs they needed and the transformation they needed and the healing that they needed, right? And so I think that one of the biggest challenges is working through our inner child that is scared, that feels unworthy, that feels like they're not good enough. They're still maybe or trying to prove themselves through accomplishment, trying to, seek validation, and always coming back to the truth that like you are worthy as you are, and really detaching my worth from my results. I think that's a big thing for spiritual entrepreneurs to really get to, because we are all working from our heart, and sometimes when that doesn't feel validated on an external level, it might feel like because it's so personal, right? This is my
Personal.
purpose. This is yeah, right? It's like I'm like, oh, like is this not my purpose? As we start to, seek that external validation to for us to commit. And I think part of the work of always coming back into my spirit, into the truth of who I am, my higher self, doing my inner work, it's like it's not for anyone else, but just for me, the joy of expressing, the joy of creation, the joy of connecting, right? Like that experience in itself is so beautiful. And then the byproduct then gets to be the abundance, the success, the prosperity, right? Um, the other logistical aspects of running a business, but
Yeah.
keeping it heart centered, keeping it really grounded in true soul work, that is always like a dance that we have to do.
Oh, yes, girl. I was just in Mexico doing the same thing, saying, what needs to move through me authentically? I have all these ideas, all these visions. That seems like a real ego move. Maybe I should sit back in this for a minute and just kind of see what really is going to come effortlessly, like the flow through me, rather than being like, I want to do this. I've got to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do no, 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 no. You're going to get back to your
Mm,
center. And I love what you said before. It reminds me of this saying, let your mess be your message, right? Like, I have always been a believer that, like, the more we share our truth, the more we help people and the more we give them
yeah.
permission to shine and to step into their power. So, yes, yes, yes. I'm like, aho, aho, amen. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. You're preaching. But next question for you is, what was the best piece of advice that you've ever received? This might be a hard one because I know there's so
Oh,
much good advice.
I know. You know what's awesome is that as I'm a coach and I believe in having mentors and coaches, right? And the value of that. And so I've had amazing spiritual mentors and coaches in my life, and um, therapists, psychotherapists that I've learned under. I have a shamanic healer that I work with, and she's been working with, kind of alongside me with my clients for couple years now. And a couple years ago, when my business started to really take off and, success was like kind of just like avalanching in, I got to this point where I was like, oh my God. I was like, what is going on here? But also fear, right? That fear
Yeah.
came up of like, can I sustain this? Is this just like is this just like an
Gonna go
anomaly,
away?
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, is this just like a one-time thing and then we're gonna contract after this? What's gonna happen? And she told me, your business is you, and you cannot fail at being you. Right? Like, even if you lost all of your clients today, what would you do? Wouldn't you just keep going? Wouldn't you just continue to be who you are? Wouldn't you
Yeah,
just continue to show up and serve and do what you like your soul knows what to do? So
yeah.
like if your business is really who you are, your business cannot fail because you cannot fail in being who you are.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's good advice.
it was great advice.
Okay. And now you've had so many like teachable moments in your life, and you've had so
Mhm.
many. Could you choose just that one defining moment? Like, I have two defining moments I can go back on in my life that I was like, wow, that was my pivotal change. And then I just had another one recently, and that was another huge, teachable, major shifting moment. What were those for you?
Oh yeah, I've had quite a lot, obviously doing so much work with the medicine. I can think of just the one that just came to me,
Yeah.
right? It was this moment in an ayahuasca ceremony where I had seen that like I had intertwined like who I was with this belief of unworthiness. And it was like, it was so hard. And I have been working on, being an abused child, being told, every day of your life that you don't matter and you should shut up and there's nothing good about you. You know what I mean? Like, that's the conditioning that I had been receiving my entire life. And so trying to break free of that was extremely hard, trying to reprogram all of my, beliefs around myself and literally my neural pathways, right? But what I saw it was like my unworthiness was intertwined with like who I was. And so when it was trying to, ayahuasca, Mother Ayahuasca is just like, are you ready to let this go? Are you ready to release this?
Mm.
And there was a part of me that was like, no.
Oh,
It was a fear of like, this is who I am, this
yeah.
unworthiness. This is who I am. This is my identity. If you take this from me, what will
Oh,
be left of me?
yeah.
Who am I? Who am I without my story, my sad sob story of how
Yeah.
I'm not good enough and how I don't have enough and I'll never be enough? What am I going to be left with if you take this from me?
Wow.
And I think that's a lot of what people struggle with when they don't know that subconsciously we identify with our struggle. We identify with the things that hold us back. And so letting go of that can be extremely terrifying because you don't know what's on the other side of that. And when she's it was funny because in the ayahuasca ceremony, she kind of sat back and she said, okay, you let me know when you're ready to let go of it. And I'm literally sitting there like writhing in pain and like feeling how like I'm suffering through this holding on, right? And when I finally like, I don't know, maybe like 20, 30 minutes, I'm like, all right, fine. Like I'm ready. Like I'm literally like internally like feeling the pain of that
Yeah.
attachment, right? That um when I finally was able to let it go and to purge it, it was like a ripping. It was almost I felt like a ripping bone from skin. Like it was painful.
And did you
It was
actually purge?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, I purged in many different ways. And
Yes.
but it was painful. It was extremely painful. And I remember after it was like fully lifted from me,
Mm.
it's almost like I started to look around. There was a void, right, of where that had been sitting heavily on me, like a
Yeah.
stone, suit, like keeping me down. And then so once it was gone, it was like a lightness, but also like a void. And I was looking around as if I had just like landed in my body. And I was looking around as if I was seeing out of my eyes of my body for my first time. I put up my hand and I was like looking at my hand. I'm like, it was like I had be in a sense been reborn, but in
Yeah.
without the attachment of the identity of the unworthiness. And life after that began to shift dramatically as far as like what I was starting to create began to blossom, and my
Mm,
fearlessness and stepping out and creating my business and abundance and prosperity flowing in. So like it really is it was a monumental and pivotal moment for me.
mm. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That's beautiful. And I'm so happy that you had that experience. So now you're able
Thank
to
you.
stand here today. And I am even more excited to try and make it on your retreat.
Oh, yes, queen. I feel
Yeah.
like you're already there. I feel like we're
I
already
feel
there.
like
Like it's
I do feel that. Like I reached out. She was like, "Hey, like I'm feeling like I'm supposed to be there."
yeah.
So, just hold tight. I just need to go to my doctor and sort some things out. Me over here doing my IVF again. But it's all good. That's all been part of my journey as well, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I feel like I'll just be teaching on that too. So, right? All of
Yes.
these wonderful things that we get to overcome, that we get to share with others, because now I'm an
Yeah.
IVF expert, self proclaimed.
Yes. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that need that, right? That
Yeah.
need that guidance, that need that support, need that wisdom, all that you're gaining in your path that you're walking right now. And it's so valuable.
Yes. So please tell everyone where they can find you online and maybe a little bit about what you have coming up next besides the retreat. I know you do these amazing programs.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm on Instagram and on TikTok at the Urban Indigo. My website is theurbanindigo.com. I have, tons of group programs. I have one-on-one coaching. And so there's many different layers of support that you can get from me. I have a digital course that I'm launching in a little bit. That's going to be a quantum wealth masterclass, which is basically teaching you how to get in alignment with the abundance and the prosperity that you already deserve. And really clearing out any blockages or any limiting beliefs, any thought patterns, but also any energetic blockages that keep you from accessing really your own birthright of abundance and prosperity. And so I've done so much work around money because I grew up poor. My parents had a lack mindset. I was always told we can't afford that, or we don't have that, there's not enough, right? And really understanding that there wasn't money and abundance became overflowing and more than enough when I realized that who I am is enough, and really doing the inner work to really get in alignment and attract like a very beautiful and abundant life, which might not even just be about money, right? It can be about love and friendship and community and joy and soul satisfaction. That's true abundance, right? True abundance is the ability to be present and really take in and absorb the beauty of life in the moment. But when you're in survival, it's really hard to do that. And so I think that's been one of my really main paths that I want to teach on and help empower people to create more wealth and abundance in their lives. So yeah, there's so many. I'm like you intuitively and channeling creations all the time. So definitely follow me on my social channels because sometimes I just like create. I can create a program that gets channeled to me in like on Monday and by Thursday it's launched. You know what I mean? So just like yeah, stay in touch with me. I would love to share with your audience, and also I'm excited to share this with my audience, with people that feel resonance with you, and all the light and all the work that you'll be sharing on your channel as well.
Thank you. And I really look forward to having you in the collective because I think that teaching on like wealth, abundance, and all the work you do is just so needed. It's such an integral part of our wholeness.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
just thank you, sister,
of
sister. I
course.
see you. And just thank you for everything that you do. And thank you for being here today.
My pleasure, Queen. I'm so excited that we have this beautiful reconnection and also being walking these paths together after not speaking for so long, but then also seeing that we are walking a very parallel journey and happy to be here and support you in any way that I can and just for you to shine your light because it is so beautiful and I see you too and I love you and I'm
I
sending
love
you a
you.
big virtual hug right now through the ethers.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Divine Lifestyles Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your episodes. If you really loved this episode, screenshot it and share it on social media. It will help us to continue to make an impact. With gratitude and love always, keep illuminating your path.